Okay, you ready?
Lift the curtains.
Welcome, everyone. So we have people from South Africa. We got some people from Kenya. We have our partners from Nigeria that's on, from Ghana in the house. We have our friends from Zimbabwe as well. Sure, that is amazing. Fantastic. Welcome, everybody. My name is Robin Keat. And oh, awesome. Thanks, Jackson. You're awesome. Yeah. From Kenya. Okay, go. So welcome, everybody, to this inaugural My Faith Hub Contributors Training. It's great to see all our friends here from South Africa, from Kenya, from Nigeria, and Ghana in the house. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Robin Keat. And I run an organization called Inner Voice Creative. We aim to amplify the voices of all creators by giving them the tools they need to thrive in business and life. During this lockdown, we were able to answer the call to help the local church connect with 560 million Christians throughout Africa. So I just want to let that kind of sink in with you. 560 million Christians. My Faith Hub is a collection of faith-based visual content provided by the local church for mobile networks in Africa that seeks to connect their subscribers to their faith. So it's giving all of you, our creatives, our church leaders, tools in order for you to spread the gospel that Christ has given us. So today's session will be run and sponsored by my dear friend Leon from Film MAGNIFICATION, a company designed to tell stories through visual medium. Leon first studied theology and then web design, which later became full-on IT support and programming. He moved on to becoming a full-time photographer, worked with publishing magazines like National Geographic, as well as winning a couple of national photographic competitions in South Africa. And so SA Pilot and WineSA, I will give him opportunities to tell you more about him. But the purpose of today's session is for us to give back to you, the local church. So today, we'll be covering 6 different areas. The first one is how do you set up your recording device, so your laptop or your phone. The next one is how do you set up a distraction-free recording set within your church or wherever you are. The next one is how do you set up natural lighting for your recording. The second one after that is how do you set up the right captions and keywords that will attract viewers. This is on any forms of social media platform or when you're setting a WhatsApp with your services. And the last one is how do you reduce the file size for quick upload and easy watching. So during the presentation, we will be allowing those individuals who have questions to pop us a question. So please, in the chat box, pop your questions in, and then as we go on, I will ask Leon to give us some form of input from that. So please, this is going to be a very interactive conversation that we have. It's going to be very easygoing. So please let us know what you want to have, and this is our way of investing in the local church. Awesome. So without further ado, to the one and only Leon.
The crowds went mad. Good afternoon, everybody. It's really a privilege to be here, and it's quite overwhelming to see from all the different countries that you guys are all here. It's actually fantastic. Before we start, let me just do a quick disclaimer. So everything I'm discussing here is my professional opinion. I've been in the industry since 2006, maybe earlier than that. But in 2006, I think I started my first photographic studio. And I have learned a lot in those times. In that time, I've been published in magazines like National Geographic and SA Pilot, to mention a few. From there, I moved on to videography, where I produced. I must be on the introduction page now. So from there, I moved on to videography, where I produced feature films and various other short films and productions for corporates. I'm married to one wife who I know we've been married for a long time. I know exactly what she's thinking at any one time. And that's because she tells me, right? I also know what I'm thinking at any one time because she tells me that as well. So we kind of good there. We've got a good communications line open. She continues to tell me what I'm thinking and what she's thinking. She's a beautiful woman and very strong in the Lord. And she is a social worker. She works in the adoption arena. She does intercountry as well as local adoptions. 2 kids, you can see them there. That's their matric dance. This year they're finishing off. And I thank God for that because it's been a long 13 years. So that's me in a nutshell. So I'm basically, I have done online courses and that, but I'm basically self-taught in the industry and have learned through the School of Hard Knocks. So what I'm going to be doing today is teaching you guys how to set up a professional stream, how to get yourselves online and look good doing it. So let's start. So the first question we've got to ask ourselves is, how do you set up your recording device? And number one, we're going to have many devices, but I think in today's day and age, our cell phones are more than capable of recording us at a high quality high quality video production. So yes, you can use things like SLRs and handycams and all that kind of stuff, but I'm going to be focusing mainly on our cellular device and streaming directly online. Orientation is the very first thing we think about when we're thinking about recording ourselves, because there's things like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, what are the other ones? Vimeo, Instagram. I think the list is really, really long. So let's focus on the 3 main ones. We've got ourselves Instagram. We've got ourselves Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. I think those are the big ones that we mainly focus on in the thing. And then obviously for the My Faith Hub environment, we're going to be looking at how we prefer to have it done. So here's a picture of the cinemas in the future, because people are going to be recording feature films on their cell phones, and I think that's going to be the best way to watch it. So there are basically 3 main types of orientation. We get the square, and we get the landscape or horizontal, and then we get the portrait or vertical. And it really all depends on the on the platform that you're marketing to. And I think the nice thing about Adobe Premiere at the moment is that it's got an automated orientation clipping thing in it, where it actually reorientates your program while focusing on the main thing. So your square is quite cool because it can be used for things like Instagram and Facebook posts. LinkedIn also very good for square videography. That's basically 1 by 1. Your 4 by 5 is also considered a square, although it isn't exactly a square. Quite a prominent one. I do believe, in my personal opinion, that we are moving away from the square thing. I don't think the square is going to last too much longer, to be honest. Landscape or horizontal. Now that's a 16 by 9, and that's your typical view that you're looking at me at a landscape view at the moment. Landscape is your old-fashioned cinema, and I think it's here to stay in a big way, because YouTube, Vimeo, even Facebook are using it on their streams. The only reason why Facebook would be wanting to go portrait or vertical is because of their stories. They're finding a really, really big success in the story, the line that they put on the top of Facebook, and that's taking off. Now, TikTok, as well as Instagram and what was the other one that was they're all going vertical? They're finding that on the scrolling system, right? So as your audience are scrolling through it, vertical or portrait becomes a thumb stopper because it's able to take over the entire screen at once. Whereas if you look at this particular slide of mine, the other ones, they kind of don't. There's blank space. So if you look at the right-hand side, the full vertical takes your whole screen up, and it is an eye catcher. So depending on where you're going with that. I believe we're going to make this presentation, the PowerPoint, available afterwards so that you can see at the bottom here, there's a link saying, so I've just put a link there to the Ultimate Guide to Social Media Video Specs. That particular link is got nothing to do with me. It's just something I found that was really interested, and I didn't have to rehash it. You can have a look at that link, and it'll take you through a detailed and in-depth look at the various specs of the different orientations. So when we talk about orientation, right, we also have to talk about what holds our phone or our device in this process. So I have with me a couple of devices that kind of I use in my thing. The first one is a cage, and this cage is cell phone friendly. You'll see it has a little, where's my thing? A little port over there and a port over there. So depending on which orientation I want, I can then screw in my tripod onto those. It's quite lacquer. It makes your cell phone look really fancy. So when I end up going on site and stuff and shooting, I can like mount my cell phone in there, and it comes with a light that I put on top it's very, very cool. So this thing is, I think I got it online for, I think it was 1,000 Rand or less, maybe 800 Rand. You can get one of these online, and they really help for the just so that you don't have to worry about your phone in any particular time. It's really annoying when you're trying to hold yourself and you're bumping and you're balancing like that. I have that guy, and then that kind of plays a minor role because I have something way cooler. It's a coat hanger. And I've bent it in such a way that it holds my phone exactly how I want it to be held. And we have many, many WhatsApp meetings and stuff, and it holds my phone exactly in the position that I want it on my desk. It just clips in like that, and then is able to hold my phone for me. Like that. All right, so that's that. Oh, I also have, if you want to get really fancy, we've got cell phone gimbals available to you that are quite cool. This one also in the 1,000 Rand bracket. It's a DJI gimbal. Put your phone on it. It stabilizes your phone, especially if you want to do walking, talking. I think a lot of people nowadays, if you want to add a little bit of dynamics to your video, your walking talk, it creates a really, really, really interesting video. Rather than sitting in a still place, you can put your phone inside it. It balances nicely. It's all on there, and you can, create a bit more dynamic to your video. Orientation, important. This thing allows you to film in both portrait as well as landscape or vertical. So very, very cool device to have. Also, I will get to sound later. All right, so that's orientation. And then the next thing we're going to talk about is light. So there's, in Genesis 1 verse 1, God said, "Let there be light." And you can see for miles. So the more light, the better. It allows us to see. And basically, it doesn't matter how good your camera is. Cameras love light, all right? The word photography basically is photo, which means light, and graphy, which means to paint. And that's what we're doing. We're painting with light. Everything we do revolves around light. Light is the essence of what we're doing at the moment. Light creates depth. It creates emotion. It creates empathy. It can either detract you from your video or it can add to your video. So studying the whole thing of light, I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos on light. I'm going to cover 3 basic concepts of light today, just so that we can get ourselves into a starting point in how to create a particular presentation. If you look at me, for instance, I'm separated from my background by light. You can see my face is lit up, my background's dark, there's light focusing on various aspects in the portrait that you're looking at. So it's very important when you are sitting down to do your video that you light it in such a way that you become the focus and that nobody's distracted by other things that are in the building. We're going to get to that now. I call it the Barbie effect. All right. So number 1, always sit in a well-lit room. Okay. You don't have to go to this extent, but it's always good to have a place where people can see clearly. The clearer they can see you, the clearer your camera can see you, the clearer your audience are able to, your congregation are able to connect with you. Barbara, welcome. So then, so make sure that you're sitting in a well-lit room. Thank you. How to light your room is quite easy. Find a room with big windows. Find a room. In my situation, I don't have big windows. I've got a tiny little window up there, but I'm able to play around with lights and stuff and create a place that is well lit. Then once you've found yourself a well-lit room, now you can start playing with various aspects of lighting. And the number 1 and the easiest way to light yourself, and a really, really cheap way to light yourself, is to use a ring light. Ring lights are kind of a dime a dozen on the internet at the moment. I don't know about other countries, but here in South Africa, on eBay, you can get them for about 250 Rand just for a little ring light. And that, the thing about ring light, which is quite amazing, is it makes you look good, all right? It takes away all your wrinkles and it highlights your eyes. So it'll bring little sparkles in your eyes. It'll take away your wrinkles, and you know what I mean? I mean, let's be honest here. We don't want to look like we've just woken up with the dog's breakfast when we're presenting. It sounds very. We know. It's not a pride thing. It's if you're going to be presenting gospel and you're going to be presenting the Father of Light, you might as well look good doing it. But you also don't want to distract people. You don't want them to be thinking, oh my gosh, I don't believe what I'm looking at. And then they get distracted and they force go other ways. Make yourself look good, present it, and seriously, people will be more receptive to the message. So it's just one of those psychological issues we play with as presenters of the gospel. So yeah, ring light, $250, really good. Brings out your eyes, takes away your wrinkles, absolutely fantabulous. Now you'll see that I'm not using a ring light. I'm being more dramatic with my lighting. And dramatic lighting is fantastic because it also creates a sense of authority. So if you want to play around with a bit more light, we call it the 3-point lighting, and you can reduce that to a 2-point lighting. 2-point and 3-point lighting basically it allows you to separate from your background. So you'll take your key light, you'll put it on you, you'll make sure that you lit properly. You'll take your full light, and that's the kind of light that you can see on this side of me. It's kind of soft. It's not as dramatic. This one you'll see that's on me here. This is a key light. This side of me is kind of what you call a full light, and then you'll see the backlights behind me. Now that helps me to separate from my background to my foreground. It kind of gives me a 3-dimensional element to the conversation, and it makes it more personal in the sense that I should be closer to you. You can see that there's more 3-dimensionality to the way I'm talking to you. As opposed, Christopher, I'm going to pick on you. As opposed to Christopher, you can see he's very flat. There's no background. He's not separated from his background. He's kind of one-dimensional in a sense, or 2-dimensional, if that's the way you want to talk about it. So it just the shirt picks you out. It works. Your shirt's brilliant. If you were wearing a white shirt, that would have been bad. You would have kind of just been ahead. No. Okay, so apologies for picking on you. I just thought that would be one that came up. So, so lighting, very important. Mbonisi, you're looking great there, my buddy. You separated, you've got a nice backlit on you, you've got a full light and the key light, so you're looking beautiful. Keep it up. All right. So, so that's lighting for you. Now, I understand that not all of us have access to lights. We can't all get ourselves in a toy like that, or a ring light or 3 lights. So what we do is we use natural light. Now, natural light is quite an interesting phenomenon or monster to work with, because it can be our friend and it can be our foe. Now, if we have a look at these 2 photos, they're both shot in natural light. The one, however, is not lacquer, and the other one is very, very lacquer. So if you have access to natural light, there's different ways of doing it. So let's say, for instance, you're in your office and you have a huge, nice big window and you've got the sun shining in and you've got a nice, well-lit environment, but the sun is coming directly through that window. It's going to create harsh shadows on you. How do you solve that? You put yourself a nice, soft, what's that material that you can see through? I'm not very good with materials. Like a cheesecloth, but somebody help me! I'm drowning here.
Diffuser.
Bob, say it again.
Diffuser.
There we go. Thank you. So you have that hanging over your window, and it allows you to soften that light, and you won't have those harsh shadows. As you can see on the lady on the right there, direct sunlight creates harsh shadows. It brings out your wrinkles. It does exactly the opposite of what a ring light does. So the girl on the left, what she's done, same picture, same girl, but she has stepped into the shadow of the tree. So the tree has created a nice diffuse on her, and it allows her to just look a bit more natural. And your camera compensates for that, especially in the phones that think for us. it'll go, okay, cool, and it'll adjust accordingly. Alternatively, you do the adjusting on the camera yourself, but that is the best way to use natural light. Right, so I'm going to pause for a second and let's cover any questions on lighting before we move on to sound. Can we do that, Robin? Is that fine? Yeah, any questions?
Yeah, that's fine. I think what we'll do is if you have a question, just put your hand up and then unmute yourself, and then you can ask Leon directly. Just want to make sure that
I'm not going to type.
See everyone. Chris, do you want to ask a question? Just unmute yourself.
Thank you, Leon. I'm very happy for you to use me as an illustration of everything bad for the entire lesson. So you don't have to apologize any further at any point in time, okay? Pick on the ladies and affirm them. But oaks like me, you can use us as the illustration of bad. All right. I wanted to just ask, are you going to address the issue of microphones at some particular point in time?
Our next session is sound, yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Awesome. Is there anybody else? Is there anybody from the SMMS chapel that has a question? If you can just let me know or put it in the chat and I can answer. I just want to kind of welcome our friends again from Kenya, from Nigeria, from Ghana and South Africa. I see quite a few of you are here. Awesome. Anybody else? No, it doesn't look like it. Awesome. Lavuya, you're okay? No questions from your side. Perfect. Leon, I think you can go ahead.
Good.
The SMS chapel will post the question. So there's one question here from John van der Laar. I'll be interested to know what light Leon uses for backlight. Thanks, John.
So those lights behind me, those are called redheads. They are LED redheads. You can get them online. I think, I don't know, if you do a Google search, you could be able to get them there. They're just called redheads, and they come in a set of 3. So it's quite a nice way. And they light, and these ones are LEDs. The old-fashioned redheads used to get really, really hot because they were tungsten, whereas the LEDs they've got about 5,000 hours guaranteed on them, and they are actually fantastic when it comes to just lighting a small environment. We do have other fancier, like 1K Fresnels and bar cans and all that kind of stuff, but those are for bigger productions. So yeah, so for small intimate productions that we've got now, a little redhead like this behind me is perfect. Okay, because I've got two fairly powerful LEDs with reflective umbrellas that I use for kind of front lighting. It came as a set, which I've used really well, and I think is really helping. But I've been curious about the backlighting thing, and you're saying that's about 50% of the intensity of the main light. Correct. Yeah. So we work on a 100, on a 50, and a 30. So on your back, you normally drop it quite dramatically. It also helps to, like for me, I prefer to hide my back. But if you look behind me, I've got like a big black screen, a big black curtain with a green screen that I kind of use at times when I want to do green screening. Also a nice way of presenting yourself in this environment, especially for a Faith Hub, is just to have like a nice a green screen behind you. And if you want to get fancy, you can start superimposing other environments. You could be anywhere in the world. So yeah, it's just a nice way of doing that. Okay, John.
We have a question from Raymond. Raymond, do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Thanks, Leon. I seem to, when I record, my camera keeps searching for light. Like focuses in and focuses out. Is that a lighting problem as well or not? Some of my videos, you can actually see like a light jumping up and down on it as well. So it's almost like it jumps backwards and forwards as you're recording, and you can see it in the playback as well.
What phone are you using?
I'm using a Surface Pro. So I'm using a Microsoft Surface Pro with I think it's quite a high resolution camera.
All right. I've got a feeling that's more a focal issue than a light issue, to be honest. I just think it might be looking for focus. So in my phone and other phones that I've played with, like the Huawei's and the Apples, they've got a touch focus point. You can just touch yourself on your nose and it should focus you and then just stay there. So I don't know about your camera. Unfortunately, I haven't played with it. But normally when I just touch my screen, it knows, okay, there's the focus and it stops playing. I have had that jumping before, but I don't necessarily think it's a light thing because of the focal jump that's happening. I think it's more like they're looking for your eyes and your facial features, and it gets confused. So just touch your nose and it should be fine. So we should sort that out.
Don't like this, okay?
No, man, on the phone, you.
Thanks, Leon. Appreciate it, buddy.
Reminds me of a story of my brother who, when we were in Struis, we used to live in Struisbaai in the Cape, which is right south of South Africa, and they had a big blue bottle problem, and we were told that alkaline neutralizes blue bottles, and if you got stung by a blue bottle, all you have to do is pee on it. Sorry for that, and it would neutralize the sting. And we came down to the beach one day, and my brother was crying his eyes out, busy making a wee, and we were like, what's going on? He's like, the blue bottle stung me, I'm weeing on it, but it's still stinging. And then he was weeing on the blue bottle. So yeah. Okay, that's my last.
Leon, we have one last question. It's from Bob, and he says, which is the best for large room lighting, budget friendly? So if you're recording in a massive room.
Right, so redheads again would be kind of a good thing to use. Remember, the size of the room doesn't really matter. It's the distance of the light to you. So if you are in a massive room and you're keeping it intimate the way we are now, the size of the room really doesn't matter as long as the light is highlighting you. So these little redheads would be good for a big room. Otherwise, if you really want to get fancy, there's a light that's in the dark over there called a 2K or a 4K. They are big enough to light entire halls and things, and they're quite fun. But then that again is an electrical budget nightmare because they consume electricity like an old Beetle consumes petrol.
Awesome.
Great. Can we move on to the sound? Or
I think that's all the questions from everybody. We can continue with sound.
Fantastic. All right, guys. So sound. All right. So now, in my opinion, sound is the most important part of the video, right? I have been in this industry for a very long time, and I've had situations where the image has been immaculate. It has been gorgeous. It has rivaled any artist's imagination, and I have been so proud of it. And I've got back to my edit suite, and the sound has sucked. And no matter how much the video looks amazing, your entire shoot is a flop because you cannot get that buzz out of the background, or you can't remove the wind blowing through your microphone and all that kind of stuff. So sound, trust me, if you've got a mediocre video and you've got perfect sound, nobody will even notice the video is mediocre. So really, in my opinion, sound is the one thing that if you're going to spend money on it, spend money on sound. If you can't afford lights, that's fine. Spend money on sound. Don't worry about the rest of the stuff. Use the cheapest camera, but make sure your sound is absolutely perfect, and nobody will complain. In fact, people will praise you for your videos, and they won't even know why, because it's one of those things. It's like salt. When you eat something and it tastes salty, it's delicious, and you love it, and you go, this is delicious. But when it's missing, it's like, you know straight away it's missing. It's like, so anyway, sound is the thing that you need to focus on. Right. So how do we mic ourselves up? There are a couple of options, and and they are not that difficult to do. So wireless lapel mics, everybody says, whoa, no, those are going to cost me a fortune and stuff. They are a little bit pricey. I haven't found anything that I can trust under 3,000 Rand. These Boyos, I've been using them for 5 years now. And they cost me, I think, 3,000 Rand in the beginning. And only now, 5 years later, are they beginning to glitch on me. So that's not an expensive thing. Now, when I say it's not an expensive thing, the reason why I'm saying that is the Sennheisers on the right-hand side there, they're coming in at between 14 to 30,000 Rand. So that's your range of sounds that you can spend on a wireless mic. And they are lacquer in the sense that they're close to you. You can hide them under your collar if it's windy. You can put a little, what we call a dead cat on it to stop the wind and put it under. So it kind of helps with that whole thing. You'll see the Boya on the left has got a little sponge around it, and that kind of helps for popping. But the nice thing about them is they create a deep, rich sound. So now you're saying, Leon, I can't afford that, man. You're talking out of my league. So let's talk the next side, which is wired lapel mics. And they are actually quite cool when you're in this environment that we're in now, because you don't have to be walking around talking. You don't have to be far from your camera. You take them, it's also a lapel mic, and you click it directly into your mic input in your laptop or in your camera, and you get exactly the same effect as a wireless. Also, it can be hidden in your clothes. People don't see it, all that kind of stuff. Beautiful. Yeah, so that's one of my favorites. And these you can get for less than I think 200-300 Rand. Now, let's say you don't have 200-300 Rand. How many of you guys have got one of these lying around? So this is my cell phone. This is my cell phone earphones. They come with your cell phones. Guess what they've got on them? They've got on them a little microphone, right? When you put this in here and you're talking, it's picking up the mic. So all you do, when you get an old one of these, what's the first thing that goes? It's normally the ears, right? They're the thing. In fact, I've just had a set now where the ears went dead. I only had one ear working. You take a pair of scissors, you cut off the ear part, and you've got yourself a lapel mic that you can then plug into your phone, and you sorted. One lapel mic, and it's cost you less than, I don't know, 80 Rand, 100 Rand, whatever that is. So it comes free with your phone as well, so you can even play with us. So that's one way to do it. Okay, then we have onboard mics. Onboard mics are pretty cool in the sense that they are direction, and you can put them on, and they don't encompass you, encumber you. Sorry, excuse me. They don't surround you either, but they don't encumber you. They are fantastic in the sense that you can put dead cats on them and stop the wind. You can plug them directly into your phone. They can also sit on the gimbal as well. So when you're with the gimbal and it's on your phone, no problem there. Because the problem with the mic system on the gimbal system is that it gets the wires get tangled no matter which one you're using. So it's kind of nice to have one of them on the phone that just goes around with the phone. You need to play a little bit more with your balance on the gimbal, but other than that, it's pretty cool. I've got a couple of onboard mics that I use. I just forgot to put it on my desk when I was presenting, but this one's quite lekker. I've got a Rode mic, as you can see, and it's got itself a nice little dead cat on it, and it plugs directly into my phone. And that guy served me very well for windy situations when things get a bit rough. This guy is freaking awesome. And then this guy, I kind of got with that cage I showed you earlier. So it kind of sits on your cage in that manner, and it kind of gives you a nice direction microphone with that. So yeah, onboard mics, not too shabby. Also, if you're shooting multiple cameras, always nice to have an onboard mic, because then you can make sure that you both devices have got clean sound, and you can then sync it up via sound. Adobe at the moment is very cool with their syncing. You don't have to clap your hands anymore and go crazy. They've got full-on automated sound synchronization happening, so that's fantastic, and it's really, really cool. And then we'll get on to our desktop setups. Okay, so once again, yeah, you can spend anything from 30,000 Rand to 200 Rand, depending on how you are setting yourself up budget-wise. One thing I can suggest, and I can, and you'll see it a lot on the streamers and the vloggers and stuff, is get yourself a pop protection, one of those round, it's like a little, looks like a cloth in a circle. It stops that hard that comes out when you're talking too close to a microphone. And trust me, when I'm editing and you get that popping sound, it's the hardest thing to get rid of, especially when it's like all over the place and things. So yeah, but you give yourself a pop protector. I've got a couple of cheap ways of presenting my microphone when I'm presenting. I have a desktop stand, quite a simple little device. It's got a heavy bottom that just allows me to put the microphone in it, and then I can talk from there. And it's not going to fall over. It has a little bit of an extender if I needed to, get past my keyboard and stuff, which is quite nice. I actually have no idea where this comes from. It's one of those things that I just inherited, but it's fantastic. You can use a floor stand as well. Just keep it next to you, and then most churches have got them on the platform, so you can just take one of those, put it next to your desk, and bring it in front of you. Just make sure it doesn't block you and it doesn't cast shadows. Like if I had it like a mic over here kind of thing. So you just want to make sure that your microphone isn't casting shadows and ruining your shot. So desktop setups, Christopher, you happy with that? Or is there something specific you're wanting? Because then the last thing I'm also doing is that another way of recording yourself, and I do this a lot, especially when I'm shooting on site, is I have a independent recording device. Zooms are amazing. You can use your phone as like if you had a recording phone and a separate phone, you could use it's nice to have a backup sound that is just there for in case something goes wrong. And trust me, it does. I've been in situations where sound has gone so wrong, and if I hadn't had my backup device sitting there just recording nicely, I would have been proverbially ruined. So yeah, so that's always a good thing to have is to have these the backup devices just sitting around recording on a distance, totally out of the way. Which brings me to my next point, right? So this recording device reminds me of like you have it sitting on the table somewhere nearby recording you. So the next point I want to talk about is a distraction-less environment. But before I do that, let's stop for any sound questions.
We have a question from Lavoya from the seminary. They've been having problems with their recording. Lavoya, do you want to ask any questions? You have to unmute yourself, love.
You still sound, yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Oh, okay. I had to find myself first. Yeah, no, we struggle with sound. We struggle with sound sometimes when we do Facebook for recording live for Facebook, and sometimes it sounds muffled. Sometimes, so we don't know. Well, first, we don't use the same device all the time because we get the device is taken from the seminarians, whoever has the device free at the time. So we always struggle with sound. Sometimes it's muffled. Sometimes there's background noise. Sometimes you just can't hear at all. So I'm not sure if it pertains to the device at the time or any other advice you can give apart from what you have said already.
So I came across a situation once where I was talking about changing devices. If you look at the picture in the middle there, it's a Zoom mic that's plugged into the camera. And I had that same setup, and let me just pull out these. So this is the Boya system that I use, and the Boya system has two different types of cables. Let me just find the other one. All right, cool. Now I'm not sure if you can see this. So if you have a look at this particular cable here, you'll see at the plug. Wait, there we go. So you'll see it's got two little black lines, right? So that's your whole stereo system, and that's how it works.
Sure.
So this is a plain stereo mini jack, and you'll see on the other side of that same cable is exactly the same system. It's got a stereo jack. Now, they got all fancy with us, and they created a cell phone jack. So now if you look at the cell phone jack, you'll see it's got three black lines, and on the other side of that same cable, there's a two black line jack.
Sure.
All right. Mm-hmm. This one doesn't work with my camera, okay? It only works with my phone. So when I'm using the handycams and stuff, I use the plain stereo cable. When I'm using the phone, I use this particular cable. And that has been a problem for me because I don't think, and then I'm like plugging in stuff, and the way it works is if you look at these devices, the sound is, I don't know if you can see that clearly enough, but the sound is monitored right here through this monitor. So before it even goes into my device, I'm monitoring the fact that it's got sound coming into it, which makes me happy. Now I'm happy the sound's coming in. And now what I've done is I've plugged in the wrong cable from this device into my phone, and I get home to edit and I've got no sound. So number one, make sure that your device has some sort of sound recognition bar at the bottom. I'm gone blank of what they call that technically. The little sound thing that bounces, make sure that you can see the sound on the device. And number two, do a test recording before you start recording. Play it back to yourself. Say, okay, cool, am I happy with that? And then start recording. Because so often we gung-ho, we jump in on it, we don't think what we're doing, and the next minute we've got ourselves sound problems. Not a fun place to be when you get to the other side of the editing suite.
And then one of the questions I've got here is, how easy is it to edit sound after the fact?
I wish I could say easy, but it ain't. Sound is the most difficult thing to edit. I'm still struggle with it. I've been working on Adobe Audition for I think 10 years now. I kind of got my hand around it, but there are certain things that are just not working for me. That deep buzz, stuff like air conditioners, deep buzzes, those kind of things, they become so annoying in the edit of sound. And to get rid of them is really difficult because they're kind of at the same volume as your voice. So what we normally do is we isolate a sound. We go, okay, cool. I want that sound. Please look for it for the rest of the thing and remove it. But then what it does is it makes your voice sound like this, because, you removes all the deep stuff, and then you're talking like this on the phone, and it's really annoying. So you got to be quite careful about the whole sound thing. So pay attention to your environment, and then a good thing, if you're editing, or if you're using a separate editor to do your editing for you, always record like a 30-second, what we call an environment soundbite. So shut up, don't say a word, keep quiet, and just record your environment for about 30 seconds. That helps tremendously in the edit, because then what I can do is I can say, okay, cool, that's the environment sound. I can isolate that in the edit. I can tell Audition to look for that pattern and remove it, and then your voice becomes way clearer. That way, it's also way easier to remove things like air conditioners and fans and fridges. Make sure you're not near a fridge. I ruined an entire short film because of a stupid fridge. And we shot for 3 days, and that film never made it into the light. Anyway,
so
careful of fridges.
So, Leon, you're basically saying that preparation before recording is key to making sure that your lighting is right and that your sound is good.
Yep, we got that right. Now we have our orientation, we have our light, we have our sound. Now we're ready to go.
Fantastic. So, let's go to the next one.
So let's push the record button. Okay, so we hit the record button and we record our scene, and we're very happy with it. We've heard it, we look good. And trust me, what we're focusing on, right, is when we're recording is what are we looking like? How do we look? I don't know if you guys have ever heard of a psychologist by the name of Rogers. His thesis was that everybody is more concerned with themselves than anybody else. So we've pulled the Rogers, we've looked at the camera, we've seen what we look like, we're happy with the recording, we got the message across clearly, we're happy with the sound, and we get into the edit room. And we forgot that our daughter has left a naked Barbie lying on the floor behind us. And it's there in all its glory, distracting our viewers from everything we've had to say. So I call it the naked Barbie effect. I call it the Barbie effect. How do we set up a distraction-free recording set within our environment? So other than removing all the furniture and making sure that the place is completely empty, always pay attention to the lines around you. Pay attention to how your background works. I've got to a point in my career where I no longer look at the subject anymore. When I'm recording, I don't look at who's important. I look at what's happening around. So if you use my example, my framing, for example, you'll see that these lines are pointing towards me. This line is coming towards me. This line is cutting up. Your eye will never rise above my head. So everything around me is pointing at me. Robin's also got a beautiful environment. You'll see all her lines are pointing towards her. So it brings the attention to where you want your viewers' eyes to be. And that's one thing you need to always constantly be aware of. I'm not going to name names there. So there is another person who records, and they're very good at this. They create this environment in which everything looks right, but it irritates me, and I'll tell you why. Because it's symmetrical. It is 100% symmetrical. They have exactly the same plant, or it's a book stand on each side of them. They have exactly the same chairs, and it's so symmetrical that it actually is. It's annoying. If you look at anybody's face, nobody's face is symmetrical. I don't know if you've ever done that test where you do a mirror of your face. You hold up a mirror like this, and then you look at yourself. It looks really weird. Nobody's face is symmetrical. Nothing in life is symmetrical. So build an environment that is pulling towards you, but stay away from perfect symmetry. Loose symmetry, perfect, is lovely. I'm just talking about that perfect symmetry. It makes one feel uncomfortable, or maybe it's just me. I don't know. Use walls, for instance. So if you are in your office and you have a wall that's kind of textured, like a brick wall or a corrugated iron wall, or that kind of stuff, use that to pull towards yourself. I don't know if you take an example in photography. A lot of photography, portrait photography, uses these lines to pull towards yourself. There's the rule of the golden circle. Never place yourself too symmetrical in the middle, all that kind of stuff. Allow the eye to be drawn to you. So yeah, and then always pay attention to that thing that's going to bug somebody. Before we started, Robin and I had a look at my studio, and I had a guitar sticking out my ear over here that we had to remove. So there's things that you've got to pay attention to that are going to distract people from hearing what you're saying. And what you're saying is more important. So is the most important thing to say. So what I'm saying is try not to get people distracted by that. Other than that, well lit, comfortable, that's fine. And walking and talking, that'll always be great, because a walking, talking video allows you to bypass those rules in the sense that you become the focus because the background moves. That it doesn't stay stagnant enough to become a focus. And what else can I say about that? Nah, that's about it. Questions about environment?
So we're opening up the floor to questions about environment. Raymond, you have a question? Do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
As I say, one of the things that I discovered, obviously, with some of the stuff we put together for lockdown was, people were getting distracted by the environment. I'm in the space now where I was recording, but I've subsequently moved for a good reason. I'd had some of the people from the church say, listen, what on the third row at the top behind you, didn't quite catch the name of that book. So they were concentrating more on the books and what's on my bookshelf behind me than actually on the sermon.
Yeah.
What I was sharing. The one lady I got so annoyed with the photo that was on my wall, she made me a cross. They went over there. It was fantastic. Yeah. And now I use a white. I go into another room and I use a white wall as a backdrop. But that was the first thing. The second thing was reflections. So in other words, in your glasses. Any thoughts about that? Sometimes as you're recording, you get that. Particularly those who are going through their sermon and the sermon's on the screen, and you've got that glare.
You got the sermon in your eyes, exactly. Yes. Don't use direct light, and make sure that your screen is not in front of you but to the side, because then you got that kind of an angle that bounces away from the camera. I don't know how reflective my glasses are in this whole thing. I can't quite see. The other thing that I've noticed, going back to lighting, be careful of lighting because it makes you look like you've got horns. If you've got two lights sitting like this, right? Especially as bald guys, Luvoyo, myself, watch these two things that happen on your head here. It's like I watched the whole sermon and I kept thinking, I know he's talking about God, but he's got horns on his head. So be very careful about especially as bald guys, we've got to be very careful where the light sits because it can bounce from the most strangest places. And I was just laughing about that. One of the things that distraction. Raymond, there's another thing. If you look at your environment where you are now, your lines are pointing to your books. So if you watch the line coming from the top of your screen, it's pointing directly to your book. So that will drag everybody's eye to that book behind you there. So I can understand why they would do that.
Are there any other questions coming from anyone else? No. What about colors?
I know there's a whole thing on color and stuff. I'm easy with color. I just don't wear clothes that are going to make you disappear into the background. That's all. Make sure that your background and you are not the same color, because then it kind of becomes difficult to see. And that's kind of annoying. Other than that, reds are always very attractive. When I'm presenting, it depends on the subject. I mean, I didn't specifically choose white today, but it's a neutral color. It doesn't allow any offense or that kind of stuff. I have a pink shirt that I just don't wear because it's faded and it's weird and it's got weird lines, so it kind of distracts your eye. Blacks, whites, bold colors are kind of nice. They kind of help you to stand out. In fact, the bolder your colors, the more confident you come across. So, but just don't make it too crazy. That said, if you think about your successful entertainers, they've always got very bold colors, very like outlandish colors. So we don't want to be boring while we present the gospel. We don't want to become like monotonous and that kind of stuff. So stay away from boring and try and keep yourself in a place where life is about balance. To me, everything is about balance. Getting that perfect balance is always difficult. And but I'm not an expert on color, so I couldn't give you too much info on that, unfortunately. Sorry.
I think about color. Wear what suits your skin tone, and then complement that if you can with a neutral background. I think that is the general rule. You, like Leon was saying, is you don't want to have your audience dotting around. They need to concentrate on what you're saying. Awesome. I don't have any other questions, Leon. Do you want to carry on?
Sure. Right. So did you know that 85% of all social media videos are watched without sound? Which brings us to our next point. How to set up the right captions and keywords. So when we are recording our videos and stuff, it is actually becoming more and more important to put captions, even if they're in the same language as what we're speaking. Because of social media is driving that whole trend towards a soundless video. It's helpful to now put the right sounds, to put the right captions so that people can get drawn into what we're saying. Subtitles increase, I just got this today actually, increase engagement and audience retention by 15%, which if you're talking about millions of people is quite huge. And 15% of an hour is to have somebody watching you for 15 minutes longer than what they would have. So that's kind of important statistics there. So there are apps that help you to do it automatically, and I just want to highlight a couple of them, and these are quite cool. This one I'm also an animator, so I just quickly uploaded an animation onto one of these automatic apps, and that generated that subtitle for me. This is an automated subtitle. So down on the slide here, you'll see a couple. I've actually used AutoCap on my phone, and it's brilliant. It really works. So if you are wanting to pre-record something, you don't want to go live, you want to pre-record your sermon, you want to pre-record your little devotional, whatever, record it on AutoCap, and it will automatically create subtitles for you. Facebook business page also has auto-generated subtitles. The downside of that one is that you can't download it and distribute that anywhere else. Those subtitles stay on Facebook, whereas with AutoCap you can export it and you can then put that anywhere else. Video, they're quite a new platform. They are, I tested them out. They're okay with uploading videos and then they put a subtitle on it. But when you live onto video, they kind of iffy with that whole thing. In fact, that cartoon was done on video. So it kind of works once you upload a pre-recorded thing. Now, here's a cool thing for you guys. These things, you can choose your language, right? So when you're uploading it, you can choose which language, and then it will then automatically do that. Now, if you want to add translations, you know how difficult it is to add translations on the bottom of a thing, and you're sitting there translating. This whole thing is absolutely brilliant because what happens is it creates a separate text file. okay, you download that text file, you dump it into Google Translate, you select the language you want to translate it in, then you take that back and you put it in. You don't even have to know what it's saying. It'll be close enough because Google Translate, even though it's not 100% grammatically correct all the time, it gets the message across, which is quite a cool way of becoming a translator on your church videos, which I thought was an extra added bonus that I don't think anybody's actually thought about in this environment. So video Capwing, I haven't tried that one. YouTube account captions. They used to have an automatic captions, but when I went on today, because I wanted to just do a little demo for myself, I couldn't find the automatic one. So what you do is you upload it. When you're uploading your video, you select, you make sure that you select the language it's in, and then you go through the process of uploading it. Once it's uploaded, then you go into the edit of it, and then when you're in the edit, you'll see there's at the, wait, let me see if I can find it quickly for you guys. Where is that going to come up now? It's going to come up there. Just want to see if I can quickly find it under YouTube. Quite a cool little device, but unfortunately with YouTube you have to type it out. So yeah, it's not automatic, but it does make it really, really easy for you.
And while you're looking for that, one of the questions that came in is these tips that you're giving us, does it also apply to live streaming?
With the subtitles.
Yeah, with the subtitles.
No, I have not subtitled live streaming, so I can't answer that question. I always add the subtitles afterwards and then add it to my thing. So select a video. There you go. So you'll see under here, no, it's not made for kids. Under more options, you'll see it says language. You just select English or whatever language it is. I mean, you've got your choice here. I'll just go for plain English. And then if you've used any of the other, can you see the screen that I'm sharing?
Yes, we can.
Can you see? Okay, yeah, cool. Just to double check it. So if you've used any of these other applications, AutoCap clips or video and that kind of stuff, then you can download the CC file, and you can actually upload it here, and then with timing and stuff. So you select your language. You can put date and stuff like that, and boom, and image, blah blah blah. Okay, cool. Push next. It's none of that. Next, and everything's there. I'm just going to make it unlisted for now. Okay, cool, and then we save it. It's a nice small file, so it should be quick enough. There we go, and then you can share that wherever you want to. Now, in the actual uploads, you'll see there it is. Under details, you're going to edit. Under more options, you'll see over here. To manage other languages, go to subtitles. Subtitles is the original language, and then you can either upload over here, or you can, if you go here, click on subtitles, and you push add. I just want to see what's there now. You push add, and you say auto sync. All right. So when you click on auto sync, it simply type the text that you hear in the video, and it'll automatically be synced to the timeline. Click set timings and manually sync the text. Okay. And then as you push play, you just type what you hear. And so I'll type in hey there be, excuse my set of bedding, etc., and I'll go through the process. And once it's done, it'll then allow me to assign timing, and then it'll take over from there. So that's just a thing that you need to just do on a per video basis. So not entirely automated, but also very, very convenient in that the sense that it creates the timing for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so that's captions, and captions are becoming, like I said, more and more important. They definitely are the thing that Yes. So that's captions. I like to answer your question earlier. I've never run captions on a live feed. So I don't know. I can't answer that one. Sorry.
And then one of the questions that came in is, do the subtitles work when your native language is Xhosa, Zulu, or Setswana?
Yes. Yeah, you must just select your language and then it'll work through it. I'm not too sure how many vernaculars are available on these, but there are like a bunch of languages. And then just check that yours is there. It'll be able, if your language is in the drop-down list on any of these, you'll be sorted. If not, contact the developers and offer a translation service. Maybe you can make yourself some money on the side. Okay. There's subtitle creator. I put a link in on that one for some reason. You can click on it and it'll take you down there. Right. So that's subtitles. Then the final and one of the most frustrating things when I first got into video, I couldn't understand. It really frustrated me. How the heck do these guys put like 30-minute videos on their WhatsApps and all that kind of stuff? Because whenever I recorded a 5-second video, oh, I'm bouncing. Well, every time I've recorded like a 5-second video, WhatsApp and what those other ones, TikTok and all those guys, they would be telling me, sorry, your file's too large. You cannot big it. It's too big for us. We must be below 30 megs. And I'm like, I don't understand. Why can't I? How do they do this? So reducing your file size is actually one of the most important things to do when presenting your videos on social media, right? Now, there's a couple of free apps that you can use to record yourself, which actually helps with presenting your stuff on, and they automatically reduce the file size. Now, there are contrary or a very, very, very little known thing about video is that it is a 3-dimensional asset. In other words, it has an up, it has a sideways, and it also has a depth. Okay, so think of video as a box. Now your up and your cross, that's your dimensions, that's your ratio. So like I spoke earlier, your dimension, your landscape, vertical, that kind of stuff. Now the bit rate is your depth of your video. Think of it like smearing butter on a toast. You can either smear it really thick or you can smear it really thin. It's still butter, it's still on a toast, but depending on how much butter you want on that toast depends on the bit rate. Now the bit rate is what you reduce in order to reduce the size of your project, of your thing. Premiere Pro has a very easy way of fixing it on your export. You can then reduce your bit rate. Usual bit rate of a video that you've recorded on a phone or on a video is 10 bits with a target rate of 10 bits and a base bit rate of 2. You want to reduce your target bit rate to 1 or 2 or 0.5, depending on how long it is, to create a smaller sized video. I'm not talking about dimensions. I'm talking about weight, as in megabytes. If you want a smaller video, you want to reduce your bit rate in that. Now, if you can see point number 1, we've got a couple of free apps that you can download that automatically record on a smaller bit rate, because they are focused on producing video that gets published to social media. So we've got Quick, which is a free one. Adobe Rush is a free one, and GoPro is a free one. Adobe Clip, I'm not sure. I'll send on a correction, but I think it's also free. These guys, if you're on your phone and you use them to do the recording, they're already recording at a lower bit rate. So you don't have to worry about reducing your bit rate for them. The other option you can use is filming at a smaller ratio. Okay, remember we spoke about landscape and portrait and square. You can actually reduce the ratio. So at the moment, your usual ratio would be like 1:8. No, 1090 by 1080 would be your normal landscape ratio. So you can reduce that now to like 640 by 320, but that's tiny. It's like this. We don't shoot like that anymore. It's really not going to help, but it does reduce the size of your video. But you can also reduce it and get the same thing on 1280 by 720, and that'll reduce the size of your video as well. Okay, so those are some things. If you need to know how to reduce a bit rate, I'm just going to try and see if I can pull up a quick example here. Give me a couple of seconds. Let's see what happens. I just want to pull up a video that I've been editing recently just so you can see where it is. So I don't know, by a show of hands, anybody using Adobe Premiere to do the editing? That not a thing? Okay, cool. So in any of the editing software, you must just look to where your hey Bob, thanks. You must just look to where your thing is. So if you have a look here, I'm just going to remove that quickly. Push this one.
While you're doing your preparation there, Leon, one of the questions that came in is what happens if you're already filmed in high definition or larger ratio? What do you do then?
This is what I'm showing you now. So this is the answer to that question. So if you've filmed in a high definition video, this one you can see we focus on the landscape for social media. You come down and different software will have it in different places, but it's the same concept. So just focus on the concept of what I'm showing you here rather than the actual to-do thing. So you'll find in each software, you'll find a thing called bitrate settings, okay? So this is your bitrate settings. So your usual default bitrate settings. Now focus on this size over here. You see the size 474? If I put it onto this default setting, it becomes 1.5 gigs of a video, right? So that's how I would have ingested this, because if it's filmed at a high bit rate. So if you look at this particular image, this one is source file 1080 or 1920, like I told you earlier. That's your default landscape mode. It's just switched around. So normally it would be 1920 over 1080. This one is put into a vertical, and it gets put in, and it'll come to me at 10 bits. Okay, my target bit rate will be 10 megabits per second. So what I do is in my editing, I bring it down to 1. Oops, and it disappears. So if I bring it down to 1, you'll see that it drew it down to 164 megs. Now that's less than 10% of the original size. So yeah, just quite interesting to see that. And it hasn't reduced the output quality so much. If we have a look here, that's the output, that's the source, and to the naked eye, you hardly know that you can hardly tell the difference. So even for you guys looking on there, if you look at that, look at the hair, for instance, there's always a good place to look for degradation of quality. You'll see there's very, very little difference in the quality that's coming out there from the source to the output. And I've reduced it by 10%. I mean, to 10% of the original. So that's pretty impressive, if I say so myself. Yes.
Leon, do you recommend that everyone records with a high definition and then reduce, or to record at a lower definition so they don't have to reduce?
Look, it all depends on your audience and your output and where you wanting to have your final product. It's very important to have that in mind whenever you're recording. Always know who you're recording for, what platform you're recording for, and then decide from there how you want to go about it. If you're recording for a platform where you need a reduced bit rate, and that's the only place you're going to put your footage, then rather cut out that step in your post-production and say, I'm recording for this, done, dusted, full stop, finished. Otherwise, if you think, all right, maybe I want this footage to be available on bigger platforms, larger screens, that kind of stuff, then record it on high, and then you got yourself a bit of leeway to play in the end. You can say, okay, cool, now I can now produce this, or I can produce that, and you've got the high definition available to you. Right, and with that, my story is finished.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in this My Faith Contributors training. We're going to be doing training once a month, and we really want to invite every person to be part of this, even if you're not a contributor to the My Faith Hub project. It's our way of giving back. So if you know of anybody that wants to be part of it, please join us. But a quick ad for next month. Next month, we're going to be talking about extending the borders of your local church. How do you move your services online while still keeping your in-person services going? So I think that's a great conversation that we're going to be having. We're going to have a panel made of church leaders in South Africa, Botswana, Kenya, and Nigeria. So we're going to have a lot of different perspective from around the continent. And then the second thing is we will be sending you an email with this recording. So you can always go back to it. And if you have any questions on things that you weren't able to ask today, or you think of it a little later, please send me that email. We will gladly answer those questions for you. And Leon has made himself available to the local churches in our community who need help with their post-editing. So if you need any help, please let me know, and then I'll pass your information to Leon. He'll give you a reduced rate for that. But other than that, I just want to thank every single person that has taken the time to be with us today. Thank you so much for being part of our journey. And yeah, I think before we go, are there any last questions that we would like to ask before we go? Other than that, we can end it there. So awesome. Very grateful. Oh, lots of love. Thanks, Leon. Thank you so much for all that you do. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's it. But thank you very much for a beautiful session, everybody. And we'll see you next month on the 12th of November for that Extending the Borders of the Local Church, How to Move Your Services Online. And then also we're going to be giving everybody a questionnaire of what type of training they want. In how do you move your services online? Do we need to go more in depth in terms of how do you do sound, how do you do lighting, and we'll gladly assist you. Awesome.
Patrick's got something. Patrick's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Patrick. Do you want to ask your question? You can unmute yourself.
Hi guys. I'm not sure if you can hear me, but there was a question by Mbonisi Malaba. What about if you've already filmed in HD or larger ratio, what do you do then? So I'd like to just suggest there are plenty of third-party applications online that you could use. Personally, I prefer, there's an application called Handbrake. So if you have 1 gigabit of video that you've recorded and you need to compress it without losing the quality, then that does that for you. So there are plenty of applications that are online that probably you could use to just compress the video without again affecting the quality. Over and above, I'm very excited for this. From Kenya, it's goodbye.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we're very grateful to all our partners. So yeah, we will see you all next month for our conversations. And my door is open if anybody needs any assistance. So from that, have a great day, everyone.